I'm really excited to tell you up front today just how much I appreciate everybody joining and also being able to talk to Nick and Lawrence here. Hi, Susan and Ricardo. Hello, Carol as well. Yeah, we're going to talk about a few things that have really caught my attention as a writer here on Substack with as you may be a subscriber to it. Hi, Carol. I'm from Colorado. Um, you may have noticed that we have over in the adverse action area, I write a pretty much a daily or semi-daily newspaper. Most days it goes out. Hi, Tyler and Diane. And the premise or the idea of that is I take one very specific subject usually and drill down into it a little bit farther from a point of view of doing analysis as well as exposing more facts about something. So I'm not one of the independent media people that goes very super wide. I go more narrow and down into the down into the hole, if you will. Sometimes I get lost down there, and I need to claw my way back to daylight. But my background, just for those that are interested, just very casually, my background is in well, first of all, it's in business, and then secondly, I'd say I have a strong background in the history, political science, sociology, and economics. So those are my four areas of where I spend my time these days. I am no longer in the day-to-day grind of the corporate business world. I guess I decided to exit that. So, in any case, with that in mind, I'd like to also go here to Nick first and just say, hey, if you can introduce yourself, tell our audience who you are. Hi, Isabel, and just give us a little bit of a quick introduction as to why you're doing this, why Banner and Backbone exists, and what you're trying to accomplish. And then I'm going to hand it over to Lawrence, excuse me, after that, and let you guys expound on that. But go ahead, Nick, if you would.
Yeah. First, thanks, Rick, for having us on, having me here. I really,
Yeah,
Lawrence and
absolutely.
I are co-founders, two of the three co-founders of Banner and Backbone. Our third is Frederick Pogue, who, if you haven't met him,
Oh,
he'll be
I've been on it
around
at
at
least. Yeah,
some point.
right.
We love Fred. But to introduce myself, I'm Nick Paro. I host the publication Sick of This Shit with Nick. It is a
Love that
poetry-based
show.
publication. Um, and it's actually my mental health journey. It's also my political views and my just daily ramblings. I do live videos there, but it's the biggest thing is the poetry for me. Is I write political,
Right.
social, mental health related, patriotic poetry, and I'm healing myself through it or trying to, and I'm chronicling my journeys of like fibromyalgia and things like that. But where I came from was I originally studied music theory and composition at Carnegie Mellon University.
Wow.
Um, I then went into the Army after graduating. The program I wanted to get into was way too expensive for me to get into. So I went into the Army. Um, and so I enlisted. I did not go the officer route. I enlisted. I went into the intelligence field, learned how to be an interrogator, um, and met my wife in the Army.
Wow. Very cool.
And then from there, got out, went into truck driving for a little while I got a degree in software engineering and computer science. Worked at Amazon. Um, Worked at a startup tech company. Was a senior software engineer
Wow.
for at the end about 6 years. Over 6 years in the software and tech field, fintech, health tech. I know a lot about what's behind the scenes, and it's scary. Um,
Yeah. Yes, it is.
um, and how they don't follow banking regulations very well in what's going on in the world right now for in Epstein related shit. And then I lost my job 2 months ago, and I really started this publication like
Hmm.
full time. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm working to build this to a gig to be
Yep.
able to actually run this publication. Sick of this shit with Nick full time. Plus, I was able to start Banner and Backbone with
Very cool.
Lawrence and Fred, and that was the three of us, our brainchild together. We all came at it independently, almost at the same time. And we're like,
Mm,
hey, we have to do something. Like something needs to happen. And I've always thought about doing something like this. My dad was a is a U.S. history major. I learned a lot about it growing up. He's a retired full bird colonel. My brothers both served. My cousins serve. We have a history of service in our family. Grandfathers both served. And so I I'm really sad to see everything that's going on in our country so much.
right.
Um, and like the degradation of everything that I swore an oath to protect and that I learned about and loved and care about and want to protect. And so I couldn't shut up.
Yeah.
Like I like
Hey,
talking and I didn't want to shut up and I said it's
for
now my
sure.
turn. Like I've been told white guy like stop giving men microphones, but I was like, but the only ones who aren't listening to that are the ones who should be listening most. So I'm gonna pick up a microphone and be a good like do something hopefully that's better than what the shit is being spewed. And I've gotten to find and build an incredible community of friends and
Yep.
other creators, Lawrence specifically one of them, has become a really good friend.
That's
And it's
great.
something that I needed. And I love it. And I appreciate the fact that I've been able to find communities and build them like this. And I think we all need it.
Yeah.
And little LT to answer your question, my son's
Yeah.
is doing well. He had his first follow up today. Um, and he's
Fantastic.
doing well. I truly appreciate all the support everyone has provided so far. Sick of this shit with Nick and to my Venmo and other things to help us.
Right.
Um, and if you want to continue helping, I'm still obviously taking paid subscribers. I'd love to make this full time, and that helps pay for
Right.
medical bills,
Medical expenses. Yes.
like right away.
Right.
So, but it also helps just get the word out and the message
Right.
out. And
Right.
both Banner and Backbone, I put a lot of shows there now,
Right.
um,
And,
because that's where they truly belong.
mhm.
And I want to make sure, and that's really where came from in all of this. And I'm going to hand over to Lawrence.
Yeah.
Um, Before anyone gets to ask any questions, hand it over to Lawrence. That's
Yeah.
you.
Boom. All right.
Nobody dig
We'll
into my
come
life.
back to you. Okay.
Oh, sorry
Hey,
about that.
Lawrence,
Yeah,
please pick it up there.
yeah, sure thing. Well, Rick, thanks for having us. It's
Yeah.
great to finally meet you. I've watched your shows, and yeah, I have been keeping track of you. It's great to finally be on. I'm
Yes, it
Lawrence
is for me too.
Whitterman. Yeah. So I currently live in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I lived on the West Coast in Seattle and LA for the last 30 years. Recently moved
Wow.
back home to kind of help take care of my mom as she gets older.
Same
Um,
situation here, Lawrence.
yeah, it's a bit of a culture shock going
It is.
from West Coast to
Seattle to
Midwest.
here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So uh, I spent my career as in the tech industry as as a project and program manager,
Oh, yeah.
working on website build out stuff, e-commerce, content
Mhm.
management, content strategy, kind of all that stuff. Um, and uh, and I joined Substack 5 months ago with my best friend Dana Dubois. We are the co-founders of Gen XE. We're both Generation X, and so we're really kind of focused
Yeah.
on that because we're both at the you too, Rick. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
awesome. Like I don't know about
68.
you, but yeah, we're at the point in our careers where we're really seeing the impact of AI rolling out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And the way that it's kind of changing the job landscape out there. It's a
For sure.
disastrous job market. Um,
Yes, it is.
So we started Gen XE just as on kind of a lark. We're both writers. We both, love to produce content. I also started my own Substack called Lawrence Winterman Science Fiction, where I published my science
Oh,
fiction work. I
very cool.
I didn't intend to only write queer science fiction, but as a gay dude who grew up reading sci-fi and kind of never seeing myself represented in science fiction,
Yep.
I guess I just kind of have a lot of stories that I want to tell. They all happen to be science fiction. Um,
Great.
and then, like Nick said, I also, with him and Frederick Pogue, started Banner and Backbone because we've got to do something in this country. Like, it's so obvious that we are off on the wrong track. And
Right.
through my exposure to politics over the course of the last 20 years, the one thing that I've learned is that those people are not different from any of us. People in elected office are just people, and they're not smarter than us. They are not wiser than us. They just happen to get themselves elected to something. And so,
Right.
I think we're out here putting some ideas out into the field and trying to encourage people to action because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us, rising up together and saying that we need to make a change.
For
So
sure.
yeah, so that's me.
Okay. Well, that's great. And that's a good segue for me a little bit. And I've read a couple of the things that you posted and I have to admit just for the record here so you have the background. I am not as caught up on video as I should be. I have to juggle my time reading probably 15, 20 Substack authors in a day. And all the other media stuff that I consume to keep my articles coming out. So I'm a pretty busy guy too, for that. But the videos I think you guys have done where I have seen you, I love them. I love both you guys and when you get on with people and just start the discussion, things really roll really well. So I'm
Thank you.
grateful for that. Yeah.
Thanks.
So yeah. So you talked about this thing I call or you called reviving the founder's spirit, right? And it caught my eye, and I want to start here if that's okay, because I think it's like the hook into Banner and Backbone of what you're doing. And at any point I say something, by the way, I want you guys to correct me right away if I'm wrong. Don't let me. I'm sure you will, but
we
I want
we
to.
don't let people get away
We're
with it.
very shy.
Right, right,
Oh
right.
yeah, we're pretty shy here.
I figured, I figured that, but I it caught my eye because of this, right? I kind of rotate uh, reading different biographies of different people through history in both America and around in the world. And I just happened to land recently on the kind of what I'll call the authoritative uh, at least recent Pulitzer Prize, John Meacham, Thomas Jefferson, and the Art of Power. And I was reading his biography, and in it, he talks very much. Jefferson talks very much about that we look back at our founding fathers and have a kind of sacred pedestal that we put them on, and yet Jefferson, in his own words, when he was after he had been president, after he had sort of retired to Monticello, he said to John Adams in multiple letters, he said things to the effect of, look, we've got to teach that next generation that this is not sacred stuff. There's nothing about the Constitution that is magical. It is about people trying to solve problems in real time. It is about trying to come up with balance in our ways of governing each other. And I think it was Hamilton. I'm not sure. I could be misquoting this, but there was an idea by Hamilton floated in his lifetime that he said, where I believe it went like this. It was like that you can go, and this came from Thomas Paine to Hamilton. Basically, you can go from normal society, and that should limit what the good things are that you do and can you want to work, you want to be prosperous, you want to have a good family and a good life, but our lesser instincts, our more basal instincts are the domain of government, where it's to control or to to limit our ability to screw up, as a big country or as a small country. And I thought that was interesting. So my question, and and I'll throw this out to either of you, is what in Banner and Backbone's mind, how do you see us going from what I'll say is the current state, which I think will require you to give me a little bit of your views of the current state in our country, and how do we actually, instead of in the theoretical sense, in the practical sense, start that journey or resume that journey of re-engagement of people, of getting the basics down, because that's what caught my eye for sure, and then advancing to incremental successes so that we get back to being able to even think about modifying the Constitution, or the things that you guys listed, which we can talk about those individually and separately. But how do we begin this journey of getting people all kind of pointed in the right direction when it's like herding cats? And I'll throw it out to either one of you that wants to take it. If you want to go, Lawrence, first, I would appreciate it. Maybe if you feel like answering that question.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So we just published an article. One of our banners, banner number 6, is
Hmm.
this idea that the Constitution must be amended, right?
Right.
And uh, I think it's important to kind of ground that in historical context of, the framers, when they were writing the Constitution, they were doing it because the Articles of Confederation had failed, right?
Yeah.
Like
Big
the
time.
8 years, the 10 years after the Revolutionary War, the United States existed, but it was governed for 8 of those under the Articles of Confederation,
Hmm.
which sucked. Like, they were too
Right.
inflexible. Every state was kind of like its own country, right? They
Yep.
levied tariffs and taxes on each other. um, it had to be unanimous. All 13 states had to agree on something for a change.
Right.
They couldn't tax there was no central government that could levy taxes to raise a military, right? When Shays' Rebellion happened, there was no army that could actually address the uprising. Um, and so they were looking at and saying basically like, oh, we need a system that has a strong central government that has checks and balances across the 3 branches, but also that can be amended, that can be fixed, like,
Hmm.
and they're great quotes from the time. Jefferson sort of notoriously said, we should probably throw out the Constitution every
Every
19 years
19
and
years.
start over,
Yeah,
right?
the
Yeah.
natural law.
Right.
Yeah. It was
Exactly.
he got that from France when he was over there as the
Yeah.
ambassador.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
French.
And if you look at the span of history from the adoption, so first of all, if you want a great book about the ratification of the Constitution, it's called Ratification by Pauline Maier. Uh, it's fascinating, the fight that the political fight that happened to ratify the Constitution. I was going to say they put the modern day to shame. They don't, because we're kind of shameless right now. But like,
Yeah.
the vitriol, right? Like the anger, the Federalist versus anti-Federalist, like it is worthy of drama, um, and kind of miraculous that the Constitution got ratified. But in the time period since the Constitution was ratified, to basically the 70s, it was amended 27 times, basically once every 8 years. And I think, Rick, to answer your question, one of the ways I don't think it's a like, can we get people engaged and then talk about amendments to add to the
Hmm.
Constitution? I think we talk about the amendments now. I
Okay.
think if you went to the public and said, we want to pass an amendment that says that anyone in the government can't trade stocks or cryptocurrencies, I
Hmm.
bet you get a lot of people who want to sign up for that amendment right away, right?
You bet.
You know, do,
So you so
do
you've got so you've got sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
Lawrence, but you've got here Equal Rights Amendment, right to vote, birthright citizenship, right to privacy. And I'm just saying this for the viewers, so if
yeah,
you haven't read the article yet, Supreme Court reform, congressional term limits, ban on government stock trading, which you just talked about, ban on assault weapons, expansion of the House to scale to represent the population, and then a national referendum process. And I thought that was a brilliant collection of ideas to get people engaged. So please go on. I just wanted to kind of catch up the audience. I felt that would be a good
Yeah.
point to insert in there. But yeah, that's
And
an awesome
Nick, I
set of
promise I'll
things.
stop here in a minute. That
No, go,
so
go. This is good. I love it.
yeah, yeah, so those are 10 ideas that if you look at, for as much as we could deduce polling on these topics, they're things that are at 70, 80, 90% approval, that are timely and topical. Of the 27 amendments, they have all been about, with the exception of the 18th and the 21st, they've all been about improving the way government functions, um, clarifying the line of succession of the presidency,
Hmm.
and expanding rights, right? Expanding rights to people and enfranchising more people. And so these are 10 ideas that we've got for things that address pretty obvious needs, right? Like,
Right.
um, you know, uh, the idea of expanding the House so that it is no longer locked to just 435. That was set in 1929 just through regular congressional act.
Right.
Clearly, that size doesn't work for us anymore because when you don't have full popular representation of the House of Representatives, you're leaving out voices.
Mhm.
Smaller House districts would mean that we could get a greater diversity of ideas and party representation into the government. Would maybe make it a bit more parliamentary, where there needed to be alliances between similar thinking groups to get anything done. I would probably increase collaboration, not reduce it. So these are just some ideas that we've got that we think could be really popular. And the conversation of the Constitution is meant to be amended. It is
Right.
ahistorical that we have kept it frozen in place for the last 30 years.
Right. So if I could interrupt you for just a question with a question, and that is, I think some of the questions coming up on the screen for me that I can see line up with where my thought process is on this. So it was capped at 435 for a couple of practical reasons at the time. They thought, okay, if this gets infinitely bigger, if we just keep expanding and adding, it will become chaos, right? Because 435 is already a pretty big number. And
Right.
I know what that thinking was at that time, right? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what it seemed to be. So in this situation, like my question is there's a couple of structural questions I have. And the first one is how do we deal with the what I'll call misalignment of I elect a representative geographically, but functionally they belong to committees that are disconnected from what might be inside my territory's interests, right? We may want, our big thing might be right here in Ohio, right in this county or in this territory, uh, of higher living wage, standard minimum wage, and yet our Republican or Democratic representative gets in there and bang, they're on some military subcommittee doing work way over somewhere else, and they really have no influence of that. How do you see that reconciliation process happening so that we do get more parallel or aligned with the people that come from our districts representing the interests of our districts? Because today I think people feel so disconnected. I know I do. I know everybody I talk to does. Feels like, yeah, I'll go check whatever damn box I've got on the ballot as long as it's I put my vote party line on it. It's a D. I don't know who they are. I don't give a shit. It just, all I know is I've seen them bashing each other on the TV for the last month and a half or asking for money in the election cycle.
Yeah.
So how does that start to come together in your mind, that this misalignment between committee assignment and representing your district to put it more on the representation side?
Yeah.
Well,
I've got ideas, but Nick, I've been dominating the microphone, so you go.
Yeah, Nick. Well, hey,
I'll go. I'll take this for a second
yeah,
too. I do want to
yeah,
hear Lawrence's thoughts on this for the
yeah.
ideas. Um, my first idea is removing Citizens United and the access to money and
So
lobbying.
2010
Is
gone.
yeah, is we need to reestablish the value that a vote is for a person and not a corporation, and a vote
Yeah.
is one person, one vote, and that's all you get.
Hmm.
And it's not one family, one vote. It's one person, one vote. One
Why?
eligible
Okay,
voter, one
I want
vote.
to ask you that question because I'm sorry, I have to double click on that and go down one layer, which is why not, or why not? I should say why or why not one person per family versus one person per vote. What's
Yes.
your? Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah. I make that distinction that it's one person, one vote, and not one family, one vote,
Hmm.
because the right wing and the fundamentalist wings of our country, specifically the nationalist Christo-fascists, don't want women to have the right to vote. So they want it to be a household vote where it is just the man's voice that
Hmm.
represents the entire voice of the house, and that's wrong.
Right.
So it's one person, one vote. Like if you are a person who is over the age of 18, you should be able to vote. And it's also not on you to prove at the time of voting that you're a citizen. It's on the government to prove at time of voting that it's on the government to prove that you're not. They
Okay.
have to go into the assumption because it's your right to vote shall not be infringed, which
Right.
means you
Right.
get the right to vote.
Yes.
Period, point
Absolutely.
blank. You get the right to vote. It is on the government then to verify that you are who you say you are with a burden of proof that you are assumed to be a citizen unless
Mm.
they can prove otherwise. I know
Right.
that is a radical concept to some people, but it's backwards of voting rights right now. But I think the way that we reconcile it is first we get rid of money in
Mhm.
politics and return it to where there is not an unlimited funding source per candidate. And that
Right.
way, dark money, crypto is eliminated. I think we have to make it so that the election or the Federal Election Committee that does election campaign laws
Hmm.
needs to actually enforce campaign laws and enforce
Hmm.
donation laws and enforce reporting laws. And if they're refusing to do that, then we need to take it out of politicians' hands, and citizens should be doing it and using FOIA requests and visible laws, because what we have decided is that, and I'll stop here in a second on this. What we have decided is that we are going to call corruption in this country
Hmm.
lobbying
Hmm.
and just legalize it. And that's what we have done. And that's why we get politicians who are, say, from middle of nowhere, Arkansas. I live in the Bentonville, Arkansas area. My politician is Steve Womack. He's a veteran. He could serve on an armed services committee. Like that would make sense because he represents us from a veteran's mindset.
For sure. And
But he does not deserve to be on an education committee because he's not an educator. And
right.
that's where we need to start. That's the next layer is not only do we get rid of the finances that are buying politicians to just do whatever laws or wording that the corporations want,
Right.
and you give it back to the people who actually understand what it is they're talking about. Like teachers and
Yep.
educators should be
Right.
on the education committees.
Right.
Medical professionals should be on the health committees,
Right.
HHS. And yeah,
I
and I'll
well,
stop there, but it's all about that. It's about the money.
okay. And I agree. So I want to rewind just a step, and I hope the audience doesn't mind that I do this because I have been down this road in real life with a real person who was a real fundamentalist Christian nationalist. And I want you to go back to that one person, one vote thing for a minute and tell me your answer to the statement that he made when confronted with the question, well, what if, if it was one person, one person, one family vote, uh, and you and your wife disagreed, what would you do about that if we went down that road? What would you say to somebody in that mindset whose answer to that question, by the way, was, well, that's an issue for me and my wife to work out to get into agreement with whatever that is. And then the wife eventually said, I will go wherever my husband does with this, right? So my question is, I'm just curious if you were confronted with that fundamentalist guy, what would you say? Because I can tell you what I said, but it didn't work.
Oh,
So
in
I,
terms of like how to break his
yeah,
like
how do
break
you?
through that.
Yeah, it's kind of a dissonance question because his mind is that, well, I now have a problem with my wife. We got to get an agreement with it. Da 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 da. But you're back on the, hey, it doesn't. Who cares? Who cares if
Yes,
she's different and you're one way and she's another? If you're MAGA and she's a Democrat or whatever, that shouldn't
I
matter.
I would ask that person if they believe in the First Amendment.
Yeah.
They truly
Okay.
believe in the First Amendment, then your wife has to have her own independent vote
Right.
because that's
Okay.
freedom of speech. That is your protected right as freedom of speech, and it shall not be infringed.
I
And that's
love
it.
that. I
Just
love
leave it
that.
at that. If they want to believe in the Constitution, because then you are putting the onus back on them to defend their point against the Constitution,
Right.
and it reveals, are they truly for or
Against it.
anti-constitutional? And if
One
you're
way or the other.
anti-constitutional, then you can end the conversation there. They're not going to
Right.
ever agree with you,
Right.
and you just
Right.
stop extending your sphere of influence towards them.
Right. I think there's a rule that I have formed, and I'm not the originator of it. It was actually came from Mehdi Hassan, and it's that he just doesn't debate fascists, right? If you're if you're a person who ultimately wants one ruler, one thing, all of these one uh, in the sequence of events, and you really are only voting your king into power, then there's nothing to talk about because
Right.
It's
they don't have really anything to talk with you
l-
about except to argue the point.
I'm glad you
last
said
thing
that
on
because
this, Lawrence,
I don't
before
I
you.
don't know that I could keep my calm in that conversation, Rick. Like honestly, like
And like Lawrence,
I applaud you for talking to that person and and trying to change some minds. But yeah, I think that person has such a different worldview from me that I'm not sure how I could communicate with them. Right?
Right.
Like as
Oh,
a gay man, as a person who has dozens of women friends who are, maybe single moms in their 50s who absolutely have the smarts and the opinions and the rights and responsibilities and like I don't get how you could talk to people about
right.
not one person, one vote. Um,
Right.
I think
And
you're right. It's just so
and it's
fundamentally anti-constitutional. Why waste your breath?
right.
And to build on that point is like what Mehdi Hassan says in there is don't debate them. It's don't even, I go one step further. Don't even establish that they have a basis of argument. Like
Sure.
just
Right.
ignore their basis of argument and logic. Like
Absolutely.
when they come at you with, well, it would be a fundamental agreement that we'd have to do with my wife, and then the wife says, yeah, but I would do what my husband says. Well, there's no fundamental agreement there. He
Right.
doesn't believe she has personhood
Right.
and that
Mhm.
she deserves the same values as he does.
That's a
And
great
so
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
we end the conversation
Match the heart
we
button there.
yeah,
Yeah.
we end the framing of the conversation, and I've
Yeah.
started, and we talk about this a lot on Banner and Backbone, is we frame it from a progressive and
Mhm.
pro-constitutional mindset without needing to worry about the baggage of right-wing people coming at me. Like, I don't
Right.
care if right-wing people come at me when I say one person, one vote because women are people too and they deserve equal rights to vote, just like you and me, because
Mhm.
that's what the Constitution says. And that's what the First Amendment says is they have the freedom to express their voice in the best way and the only way that we can express our voices politically is through a vote.
Right.
And
Okay. So that's
can't
awesome, and
stop
I
that.
and I got it, and I love it. So that's really a helpful answer from both of you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. The other side of that comment that you were starting to go into was around aligning people with particular skills. If I'm a vet and I want to run armed services committee or I'm an education committee, that kind of lineup has to and does require a disconnection. It basically sorry if there's any young ones on the call, but you basically have to say fuck you to the corporations to have the dark money. You have to do it. And all I see right now today is a total reluctance to do that because if they were not beholden in the Democratic Party to their donors that provide this money and fuel their campaigns, if they were not beholden, they would, I think, be standing up more and more for, more of them would be standing up more and more for our rights as citizens. But because we've got those donors that are PACs and dark money, and the Democrats are beholden to them, as well as Republicans. I'm not even talking about them right now. I'm saying about there is an internal rage going on in this country, and it's boiling right under the surface
Hmm.
that is about the fact that the Democrats haven't done jack shit except AOC, Sanders, Crockett, the guy from Murphy, and probably Pritzker,
Yeah.
Newsom,
Yeah.
I can keep
Yep.
going down that list. There is. I don't even call those people Democrats. I call them super Democrats because they're above and beyond the point where they're acting as beholden to a particular one single interest. They're actually looking at a larger swath. And you look at AOC, who does not have that corporate donor thing. She's asking for $5 in my inbox all the time, and she gets it a lot of the time. I try to help her out, but my point there is not that. It's that when you don't have that beholden nature, that trapped, almost, they're almost slaves to it.
Right.
There seems to be hope that, when I look down this list of things to happen, that needs to happen, is you've got, as far as amendments. I'm like, wow, how does that transpire? Is it literally? And here's my theory. Okay, you guys tell me what you think. Because my theory is this. My theory in a nutshell is we ought to co-opt or take over the weak Democratic National Committee with people who are one by one installed in there, and it's sort of like we don't ask, we just take power. You don't ask for power and receive it. You just go in and take it, because these guys have effed it up so far and so badly that I don't think we're going to recover in a Democratic Party sense. Now, I'd like you to argue with me if you think I'm crazy, or tell me if you think that's not as crazy as it sounds, but there seems to be a need for this fundamental radicalism to be applied right here in the moment
Yeah.
to our thinking that is not there right now.
Look,
And
Rick, we have recent history to
yep,
prove your point, right? Which
okay,
is, I'm old enough to remember when Howard Dean ran for president in 2003, 2004, right?
me too.
I
Yep,
was a Dean delegate to the
He
National
was my
Convention of
governor.
Washington State. And, and and Howard Dean was not beholden to corporate interests. He was not beholden to big money. He didn't win the primary, right?
yep,
Very clearly, the powers that be did not want him to win that primary. But he then did ride a wave of popular enthusiasm to get installed as the Democratic National Committee chair. And
yep,
he probably had the most successful run as DNC chair in recent memory, because he said, we are going to run in all 50 states. We are
yep,
going to build up the party apparatus and the grassroots in all 50 states. And then Obama got elected in 2008, right?
yeah,
Kind of using that apparatus. And then the dumbest thing that Obama ever did was kick, Howard Dean out of DNC chair and
yeah.
install, I don't remember, I think it was Terry
I don't.
McAuliffe or somebody horrible, right? Like
Yep.
some corporatist Dem. And and they pulled back from the 50 state strategy. So I think you're
And
exactly right.
and
We
now we
need to
have
take
Ken
a
Martin. Yeah, we have Ken Martin, who's a paragon of nothing. I
right.
cannot. I cannot.
He's
I,
he's weak. He needs
Yeah.
to
yeah,
resign. That's
yeah.
my call.
Okay.
It's
All
like
right.
to be honest, I think I agree. Like it's the thing we need to be we we're in a time when we cannot be playing by all the rules, but we can't, and this is the moments where we have to remember it's okay to play not by some of the rules as long as we're not ceding our moral and ethical values while doing it. Like it's
And,
okay to usurp the DNC if
yeah,
all of us think it's the right thing to do
yeah,
because it's morally and ethically right to do it and save the country at the same time. Like it's
yeah.
okay to usurp the DNC who suck. Like
Yeah,
there's a
and
reason.
John Stewart on the weekly show, was listening to one of his podcasts, and he's like, we need to find in the community somewhere of all the Democrats that are not currently involved in it, some vindictive prick to come up and take the job of the
Right.
DNC. So
I
that,
already
and
got them. I already know who
he
they
said
are.
he said that kind of in a joking way, but in the back of my mind, I went click click. It's true. It's like Donald Trump goes, well, we're going to annex Greenland, and everybody freaks the fuck out, and but he's like, I don't give a shit. We're going to do it. And over the Democrat side, it's like, well, you can't do that because of parliamentarian procedure number 74.6
Right.
subsection
Right.
3. Holy shit. And we're having the wrong conversation at the wrong level, which is, if we're going to annex Greenland, then we're going to annex all of Washington D.C., including the White House, and kick you out. I mean, that kind of crazy shit has got to
Right.
Well, it's
somehow come into play here with the passions, I guess, to get people
yeah.
lit.
Well, it's one of those things. Like I think we already have the people who are ready, who are
Yeah,
there and who are ready, who
really.
aren't
Okay.
in the apparatus.
Yeah.
I think we have the people who could be primed and ready to take over. And this is just me saying this. They don't know I'm saying this. I'm friends with one of them, who I think would be primed to do this. Is I think Brian Tyler Cohen
Oh
and
yeah.
the Find Out podcast guys would be the right group of men, and I'm saying men, and I'm because it's only
Yeah.
men in that group,
Right.
with a equally, if not more powerful group of women
Yep.
who are also just as committed. They could come in and usurp the DNC like that. They could
Right.
win us every single primary. They could win. If Jess Piper was installed as the head of the DNC, we would win. We would
Yep.
win in a day.
Yep.
Actually, in fact, really the one who should head the DNC is Jess Piper.
Yeah.
She would win every single election going forward because she's a rural Democrat who fucking knows what she's talking about, who understands that rural politics are American politics just as much as urban politics are American politics. And if we don't do both, we lose because we cede half of the country, if not more, at least in land mass and representative district mass. Like people forget that land
So
doesn't vote, but it sure is represented.
oh,
I,
it does. So okay, Larry, Lauren, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. I apologize, Lauren.
That's okay.
Anyway, the it's just a weird brain thing. Anyway, on my part. Anyway, but where I want to go with this is yes, there is that. I believe that you have these people, there, or that they do exist, and the question though is, what's we have right now, probably I counted it last night while and researching another article. There are literally 73 organizations within the United States that have corporation charters who are all organizational in nature. In other words, what they do is organize protests, they organize fundraising, they organize it, and they are all, use my language warning, fucking disconnected. They do not talk to each other, and they're independent. So my question for you guys is, in all this organizing that's going on for the next No Kings protest, for the next this protest, that protest, everything protest, how do you see using the banner and backbone as kind of a catalyst to make some things happen? If you, or maybe not, maybe I'm suggesting the wrong thing.
Well,
How do you see that to happen? Becoming a force in that.
here's my question to you. How
Yeah,
many people on this chat go to their local Democratic Party meeting? Hands up.
yeah, I do. So
I
I-
don't because mine sort of doesn't exist.
Then go make
yeah,
it. If you're talking about taking over the DNC, there's a way that you take over the DNC. You show up in your
yeah,
local county Democrats meeting and you go there, and it's a pain in the fucking ass because you will meet the dumbest people that you have ever met in your life who are all entitled to be there because they are
right,
also Democrats.
right.
And you go to those meetings and you make your case and you build
Hmm.
the grassroots literally from the grounds up. I mean, I
But
got energized by Howard Dean in 2003, 2004. And then I went home and I joined the local legislative district Democrats in, the 36th district Democrats in Seattle, right?
mhm,
And I stood for a communications chair and I won, and I went to every meeting and I proposed, all kinds of stuff, and I got voted up on things and I got voted down on things and I met people.
right,
That is the way that you make change in the party. If we want to take over the DNC, it's not just us sitting on our couches talking into our phones saying Jess Piper should be the chair of the DNC. Literally not the way it works.
That
It
wasn't a
has to
slam on
come
you.
from the grassroots.
Yeah.
You got to get yourself elected to shit. And even if the thing that you're getting yourself elected to is, the membership chair of your local Democratic Party, that's how you
Right.
start and that's how you do it.
So, Lawrence,
And
with that, I'm sorry, we'll just have to ask a coda question to that, which is, do you do you see when that happens, though, a inhibitor to the speed that is necessary in this moment in American politics? In other words,
Yeah,
are we heading too fast towards fascism
we're already at
completely?
fascism.
right.
I mean, right? Are we, there's layers, right? There's the cake is multi-layered, so
Yes,
there's
but we're
fascism
already
light.
at fascism.
Right. So the question is that thing you talked about, Lawrence, was a time bound thing, and I
Yeah.
get it.
We
But
we've got to
it
hold two different ideas in our heads at the same time, right? Which
okay,
is,
yeah,
if we are going to empower, if we're going to steer the Democratic Party in a way that we think it needs to be steered, we've got to show up to those meetings and make it
yeah,
happen, right?
yeah,
And unfortunately, I know from experience, you can't just show up. I mean, you can just show up at your state level Democratic Party meeting and kind of yell, but the way that you get power at those meetings is you go to the county level meetings first,
right,
right?
okay,
And so we need to do that. And also, we need to be fighting authoritarian fascism that is here in America. Sinclair Lewis was right. Like, could never
yeah,
happen here, but it did, and
yes, yeah,
it's happening. And we've got to fight that quickly. Like, I don't know how you reconcile those two things. I've got to get. I need a job. I'm currently unemployed. I need a
right,
job, right? I
yeah,
don't know how to have a job and then go to my Democratic Party meeting and also overthrow authoritarianism at the same time. It's gonna suck. Like, this is not what I had on my bingo card for my 50th,
right,
right?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
So
And like
let me
I
jump in.
lost my job
You
and I'm here doing this. Like that's right now, like I've registered with my local party and my county party. And I've actually met my county party executive. Um, and I need to follow up more is go to runforsomething.net also.
Mhm,
Like that's a big one. Like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
two things that I'm gonna promote right now is runforsomething.net, which I'm not affiliated with in any way,
right,
making sure that's clear. They are teaching candidates to run. They are
hmm,
teaching you how to run a candidacy. And even if you don't want to run for something, sign up, fill it out, learn, because then you're going to be in a community where other people are actively engaged, which then gets you more engaged because then you'll go to your meetings because they'll be like, hey, come join us at the meeting. And maybe you don't run for something big, but you help somebody else's campaign win. Or
right,
you get enthusiasm up. Or if you have platforms like this and there are people already running for things in your areas, you use it to amplify them. Like we are, and one of the things that I'm doing and working on with Walter Ryan, who's another contributor on the Banner and Backbone Media,
hmm,
is he does a candidate interview series that he's doing. And
right,
one of the things that Banner and Backbone can be used as a way to be an inflection point for people who are smaller candidacies who need to get their voice out there, who need to just have practice talking to people, get experience, but also sounding board good ideas
hmm,
is local candidates. If you're running for something, and you are actually registered to start running for something or getting registered and in that process to run for something, reach out to one of us.
hmm,
I'm opening that invitation. Reach out to me
hmm,
and give me your profile about what you're running for, where you're running out of, and we'll interview you. And
yeah,
we're not charging you. Like that's the
right,
thing is you
right,
get free airtime. Like that's what it's going to take too. Is like
right,
doing two things at once means we have to mix them together also. Like we have to be willing to call and say Jess Piper should be the Democratic chair right now. She's
yeah,
not. So how do we get there? Like Lauren said, you go take over your local parties and you sign up for Run for Something, which is all about running for state and local elections, not federal. And that's the important thing. They're teaching you how to run for state and local office, which includes auditor, school board, dog catcher, sheriff, all of those. If you are
Right.
interested, city comptroller, if you are interested, go to that site and learn, because then you help other people or you become interested. And that's how we do two things at once, is we then have a flood of 1 million people we're like, oh my God, I want to join. I want to do this. I want to like learn about this. I'm going to go on and I'm going to talk about good ideas. And guess what? When we flood the airwaves with good ideas, we outweigh the
That's
shitty ideas.
right.
And that's where we make the most movement, because we can't make all the movement all at once, but we can make an avalanche happen by pushing one rock at a time really quickly.
Well,
One
and
one
here's
thing
the
you
way.
just said. Oh, go ahead, Lawrence,
Sorry,
please.
sorry, Rick. Here's the way those two things are connected, right? So, Nick, absolutely, like, run for something, right? People should go out there and run for something. And then when you are actually running for something, you're going to say, great, now I got to go do doorbelling, right? I got to go door to door in my district, wherever I am, and actually, go talk to the voters. How do you do that? You go to your local Democratic Party, who should have voter rolls, right? They should literally have precinct committee officers for each little tiny jurisdiction, each voting jurisdiction in your area, and you can either run for something or you can go sign up for the Democratic Party and go to those meetings and get yourself elected as the precinct committee officer for your neighborhood, so that when the candidates come, you can go doorbell with them and say, oh, yeah, I'm Lawrence Winterman. I'm the PCO for this area. I know
Mhm.
all my neighbors. Let me go introduce you to them. Like, that's how we actually make stuff happen.
Right.
And
Support isn't about money, it's about effort.
it's about
And
showing
that's
up.
So
something, yeah, Fred
so
Wellman says this is support isn't just money, it's putting you out there too. Like us doing this right now is
so
part of it. It's just one step though.
Right. So that's awesome. I really appreciate. I think everybody appreciates hearing the nuts and bolts of the literal. Here's what we can mechanically do. I think I'd make two observations, and before I forget again, it's one keeps slipping my mind, which is the hell to get old. The actual thing that I see also with Banner and Backbone is an opportunity. Is that we talk about social media as a platform space, and it's an amplifier, right? And that, I think, if you've got the integration of a message, you've got the means to achieve that message, and you've got the goal that that message produces, all contained within kind of a triangle that you can deliver on in a regular basis, which is what I see you writing about here. I have all of your articles I've printed out. Obviously, like I said, I'm behind on your videos, but I will get caught up. But the idea there is that it's that communication, and it's that live, tactile, visceral, in your face. We're not talking around. We're not dancing around topics and bullshit. We're going to get right to it. We're going to talk about what the problems we're facing are. And I think that, you guys are dead, balls to rights. You're right on the money. And I love it because it is something not only with a short term, here's what you do, but also here's the vision. When we get to here's the amendments we need now, there's a machine underneath that to actually make that get delivered over time, right? And my other second comment was about, like, I just look at Barack Obama. I don't want to even talk about DJT at all, but let's just say Barack Obama for a moment. And I look at it and I go, he went from relative obscurity to I don't remember his whole history, so I apologize. But he didn't knock on doors with doorbells for very long. And there is for the very talented people that we have in this country who I think are sick of the fascist bullshit and want to move up the ladder and who could navigate political parties and structures very well. I think I don't think they need to start at ground level, necessarily or be there for very long. I look at Barack Obama, and he went from down here to up. You can't get any higher,
Yeah.
pretty damn quick. And I think we have so much talent and so much opportunity that it would be a shame to not leverage Banner and Backbone for its ability to do that. And I think there's a vision between you two, and I'm not sure, I don't have, is it Frank, I believe?
Frederick Pogues.
Frederick, sorry, I got the first letter right. Frederick Pogue, we don't have him on today, but we certainly, I want to in the future, continue the conversation with respect to that, because I think it's really exciting. If you look at the opportunity space, we need to understand as a just general, here's how the mechanics work. Here's the ground floor, guys, and have the simplified explanations of it, but also be able to jet up the ladder, so to speak, and talk about the more complex issues that we're facing as a society that is immersed and getting deeper and deeper into fascism. And with it, one of my concerns I want to ask you about finally, I guess, is, what about the apathy that is built into the fascism conversion machine? I'll call it that, for lack of a better way. In my mind, there is when we go into fascism, when you look at the way Trump runs, and the way all of his cronies, speak wonderful things about him in the cabinet meetings, there is an inner checkout going on in everybody's mind that cannot swallow this. That we're just getting more and more distant. And and what is it that you think Banner and Backbone could engage with to help people not become apathetic or become disengaged, and instead find hope? And I think that's maybe the wrong word, maybe the right word, I don't know. What do you think? Is that something that Banner and Backbone can be part of as the solution, or do you think it's kind of out of your wheelhouse there?
I'll say, just from me, is
Yeah.
I don't think Banner and Backbone is a tool to represent hope. I think it's a tool to represent courage,
Okay.
which are distinctly different in this. Is
Mhm.
I don't have to be hopeful about the outcome of what might
Mhm.
happen to have courage to do the right thing. And I
Right.
think that's what we need right now. Is one of our main and our core ideals that we have is this ethos of rise, which is
Right.
restoring integrity, service, and ethics in the American ethos. And
Right.
we have to do those things actively. Like, it takes courage, it takes bravery, it takes just doing. The easy thing is, it takes the right thing. In this case, is
Right.
easy to do. Like, it's easy to do the right thing. And that's, to me, Banner and Backbone is about reminding everyone and being a space for everyone to take the first step to
Mhm.
enter back into this civic space. And remember that civics isn't a lofty goal. It's an everyday thing that we do organically, and that we do through our communities and through building our networks online and in person. And it's free. It is
So
free and easy to do, and you can do it every day.
that's a great response, Nick. I appreciate that. I do have a question though, because civics. If I look at the historical perspective, and I think both of you have talked about it, right? Civics, consumerism, and politics. Those three things kind of intermix to make up and add maybe religion for some people in there, or spirituality or philosophy or whatever. But those are kind of all intertwined pillars within our daily lives, right? And you're speaking very practically about the one piece of it, which is the civics. And do you see that needs to connect across to the behaviors? In other words, let me put it in a very, very primal way. People are self-interested animals, right?
Yes.
We are that in civics can kind of seem abstract. I'll be honest with you. When I hear it, I, 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 I believe you. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I'm not emotionally tethered to it yet. So
Yeah.
that's what my question is how do I get from where I am, and maybe the viewers have the same feeling, to where we need to go, and then I'll maybe close on that question for today, since we're a little bit over. But I
Yeah.
just want to get your thoughts on that.
I, you know, I don't know that this is necessarily 100% answer to your question, but we've got two phrases that we tend to say a lot, right?
Yep.
Anti-constitutional and anti-human. And those are, kind of negative phrases, but it's
Right.
a really clarifying way of thinking about things.
Yep.
And, is the thing that people are talking about doing is it constitutional or anti-constitutional?
Yeah.
Clearly we should reject what is anti-constitutional.
Sure.
And then, is what we're talking about for humans and human sovereignty, or is it anti-human? And I think if you look at RFK Jr., for example, he's clearly advocating anti-human policies. Like, I don't know what else you would call them other than being, against human survival and human best interest.
Yeah.
And I think if we can kind of focus in on those concepts as a way of getting people, just a simple rubric. Is it anti-constitutional and is it anti-human? And if it
Right.
is, don't do it. We shouldn't do
Right.
that, you know? And I think maybe we could use that rubric as the way of connecting with people who might feel like they're powerless or they don't have connection to that courage that Nick was talking about,
Yeah.
where they
And
can then
that
decide, like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to be anti-human. I want to show up for human life and human
right.
sovereignty. I want to
Right.
do the constitutional thing. And maybe that helps kind of connect people to the mission and the idea that they can step up and be active and push away that cynicism that you're talking about, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's,
and if I'm being unfair in labeling it like that, I want you to call me out on it too. But I'm just
No,
giving you a perspective, and
yeah.
so
No,
no,
I think,
and go ahead, Lawrence.
well, there's absolutely apathy in this country, right? We have trained people for generations now, for decades now, that government doesn't work, right? The Republican
right,
message is that government doesn't work, and then they get themselves elected and they prove it time and time and time
right.
again. And so
Hmm.
people lose faith, people lose the hope that they have any ability to change the system. And yeah, we need to, wake people up. I don't want to sound woke, but we need to wake people up and get them
Why? Why
connected.
not? Shit,
Yeah, get them
being
connected to
asleep
the,
is
yeah, no, I'm joking. I'm happy to be woke. Um,
right.
just get people connected to the idea that they do have power, right?
Yeah.
And if it comes down to it, we need to call a general strike, and every single one of us needs to stop working, stop producing, stop consuming, and just grind the gears of this nation to a halt for a week or two
Do,
or 10 or
do
however
you
Yeah.
long.
think
And
is there hope for us to be able to pull together these? I said 70 plus organizations are out there that are all planning, and some of them have general strikes in mind, right? And so it's it is with Banner and Backbone as an amplifier and as an enabler and as starting at that kind of fundamental civics level. It, I think, has an enormous ability to grow exponentially fast to a large number of people when presented in the right thing. I mean, put this on YouTube, put this on everything that's out there, just blast it. Because when I first saw it, that was my train of thought was this is the thing that if there's anything, it's foundational enough that it makes sense. And it's not theoretical, and every step of the way has a literal thing to do about it. And the only thing I wish to be honest, I'm just gonna put my own. I may get in real trouble for this, guys. So, but I would love to see a founding woman on your group right there. I would, along with you guys, just to have that voice
well,
because of the. I know you got
we
Ellie.
say we say only because it was the three of us who founded the
Right,
network
right,
initially. However, Ellie Leonard and Melissa Corrigan are two of our main founding contributors. They were our
right.
first outside of the three of us. They have been a huge part of the network and
Yeah, I
the group.
love the
And
work that both are
Melissa
doing.
and Melissa does an incredible amount of work talking about organizing around organizing and supporting organizing and setting it up. And that's where at the beginning, one of the things we talked about is it's not only a media company and a media group for us, but it's also going to be and has started out as our first mission is a way to get people engaged and support and donate money. And it's a
Yep.
platform to also donate and amplify your voices through small dollar donations without us being affiliated with the DNC. Like I don't have a DNC message. I never will. I never want to, unless
Yeah.
it's a DNC that I do myself. Like unless it's Jess Piper coming and being like, "Hey, you want to be part of this and messaging?" Then I might be like, "Yeah, sure. I'll do
Yeah.
some DNC messaging
Sign
because
me
it'll be
up.
my messaging."
Right.
Um, but like
And the other
the
thought
thing is,
I want
it's
to go
it's
ahead.
really my last point on that. Sorry, is it's just
No.
like the re-engagement of civics and what I think can help bring it home for people is the idea of service. This
Hmm.
is about serving not only your community, but yourself. It's serving your better interest by
Right.
bettering the community around you. And we've turned politics into a business. And we need to and part of Banner and Backbone is restoring the idea that it is a service and
Yeah.
not a business. And that's where government has its power. And what it does is it
Right.
serves the people by giving them their needs and protecting them and defending them and caring for them. And I think we can really quickly engage people because they're seeing really, 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 really fast right now
Hmm.
when Republicans are in charge that they don't give a shit about you.
No, they
And
don't.
when Republicans are in charge, a majority of Democrats are not going to say anything either. And those people, we get out of our way. We use them as tools and we get rid
That
of them.
that is the equivalent, by the way, Nick, of saying the Democrats are as just as complicit and in not giving a shit about people. And
Yeah, they
that
are.
I think that is a message that I
If
felt
they were,
change.
they would have stopped Trump from coming into office. They
They
held that
they
power.
right.
Absolutely.
There's
Sorry,
a whole lot we
Biden
could
held
do
that
there.
power. I do not forgive Biden. I do not
Right.
forgive
Right.
Merrick Garland.
I
I
think
love Biden, but they could have stopped him. They
Yeah.
could
yep.
have stopped him from
And
coming and prevented this from
Right.
happening. They
It
didn't.
it took courage, and they didn't
and
have it.
Hmm.
and I think the other side of it too that maybe we should carry over into another discussion if you guys are willing
Hmm.
is I'd like to talk about that that whatever happened, right? In other words, I don't want to go through a history lesson of what happened in terms of things, but my biggest idea about this is Democrats right now do not have a single, sorry, swear alert, fucking idea that they're putting down on paper about where we're going to land. It's got to be more. In other words, I've looked at these numbers from the New York Times. The Democratic polling, Democratic Party registration is down enormously. There's huge drops, and the Republicans are up by 30% in the registrations of their members. And I looked at those kind of stats and I say to myself, oh my God, what's happening here is that the Democrats are going to find out really hard way that not, being not Trump is not sufficient
Right.
to get
It's about
elected.
being for something.
It's got to be you have a message that says this is what we're going to deliver, and it's got to be audacious. It's got to be like gutsy, and I think you guys have a lot of that DNA right in front of me right now, and I'm really honored to have you here, and so that's why I'd like to propose we maybe in a week or so if you'd like when it works for your schedule. I don't want to
Absolutely.
overload you
No,
guys, but
absolutely.
if you
Yeah.
enjoyed this and I enjoyed it, let's do it again. I'd love to
Yeah.
interview people. I've still got, by the way, I didn't make it through freaking 2 of my questions out of 9. So,
There's a lot to talk about.
There's a
yeah,
lot, yeah.
I
And we're
know.
talkative people.
Yes, we are, all of us, I think. So, we're at about 10 minutes after. I know people have to get going, but I am so thankful you both came, Nick and Lawrence. It has been a pleasure to talk to you. And if you don't mind, we're going to wrap it up. But I think I'll be in touch with you guys here. Maybe we can sort out a time next week because I think we need to have this conversation to keep some momentum going around the types of things we've been talking about. If you agree,
We'd love it. We'd love
if
it.
you're
Love
game
it.
with that.
Yeah,
Okay,
love to.
sounds great. Thank you so much. I'm gonna end the call now. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks,
Thanks
Rick.
for
Thanks
thanks
everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks
y'all.
everybody.
everybody.
Bye bye.